Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And welcome back to 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe, and tune in wherever you are. Interact with us. We have a special guest with us, Ed. And I know when Jim Nantz utters a tradition unlike any other, he's referring to the Masters. Well, that phrase is certainly applicable for our next guest. But no, we're not talking golf, everyone. It's football time, ladies and gents. And who better to have on than the college football guru himself? So delighted to be joined by the one and only Phil Steele. Phil, you know our summer would not be complete without our annual get-together. How are you, my friend?
You know, I am doing great, and that 757 area code reminds me of all the time I was doing Tony Mercurio's show right there in Virginia Beach from back in the early 80s. So it's been a long time that I'm always in this spot. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. Yeah, Tony was near and dear to our heart as he got Ed his start in radio and mine as well. And now we've morphed into podcasting and television and all that good stuff. And this is copy number 31, folks, of the Phil Steele College Football Preview. It is the Bible, folks. If you've never seen one, oh, you've been missing out all your life. What's different about this one, Phil, and how has it changed from the first to the 10th, 20th, 30, and now in this one?
Yeah, let's compare it to the first one. The first one came out, it was black and white on newsprint. I covered 88 teams back then, and it had about 180, 190 pages to it. And the type was super small because I tried to cram as much information as I could. Now, we've made the type a little bit bigger in recent years. We're up to 2 full pages on every team, full color. This year's magazine is 360 pages. It's like a book. It's the biggest it's ever been, and naturally, all 136 teams are covered, 2 full pages on each team, and we give you the same amount of coverage that we on Old Dominion or Liberty that we give you on Alabama or Ohio State, 2 full pages on each team with all the information located in the same spot on every page.
And before we dive into all the teams here, Phil, I got my copy, as I'm showing on the screen, as does Ed. But, you know, for years and years and years, you were awesome giving us copies to give out to our listeners and viewers. I told Ed, I said, look, you use this thing so much, it's worth your 20, 30, if it's $100 to go support Phil and what he does. Ed, you finally went out and got one and stopped begging for freebies. Good job, Coach.
Well, if it's free, it's me, Phil. And Clarence is my favorite name brand. So that's why I'm always looking for the freebies. But Matt is 100% right. By far, the Bible, not only of college football, it is the best insight on any sport given by any magazine, any newspaper, any outlet in the world. And I'm saying that not because you're on. I'd say it if we had anybody from the organization on, or if you didn't come on at all. And we're very delighted that we got you because we know extremely how busy you are. And not only are you busy, but the work and effort. My favorite page in your book is the page where there's 12 TV screens or 8 or something. And that's your living room. So you have what all of us guys want to have in our man cave, multiple TV screens to watch whatever we want to watch. You make it happen, but it's not just luxury for you. It's your job, and the effort you put in is absolutely amazing, and that's why you deserve the accolades you get.
I really appreciate that, Coach. And, you know, I spent 7 months writing this magazine each and every year, and I don't follow any other sport. You ask me baseball, I'd be clueless. Basketball, clueless. I don't even watch the NFL. I just watch college football. On Sundays, I'm watching replays of the college football games after watching the 12 TVs all day long. This way I get to watch maybe one with the volume on as opposed to just having 2. But it's the only sport I concentrate on 365 days of the year. No other sports at all.
That's something else. Well, Phil, I noticed you have both James Madison University and Liberty in your preseason top 40. It's unheard of for it to be two teams from a state, here ours in Virginia, and not in a Power 5, or I guess more appropriately deemed a Power 4 conference these days, both in different conferences with Liberty and Conference USA and JMU in the Sun Belt. They square off on September 20th in Lynchburg. In fact, it actually marks the first encounter between the two in 11 years on the gridiron. Share for us your perspective, please, on both the Dukes of JMU and the Flames of Liberty.
Let's start with James Madison. Last year, Bob Chesney was in his first year as the head coach and basically lost a ton of players to Indiana. And those were good players. As we saw, Indiana made it all the way to the playoff. Sort of shows you the talent that James Madison can produce as these guys stepped up to the Big Ten and delivered. Now, the big question mark this year is quarterback, but I think they're in good shape no matter who gets it. Barnett is, of course, coming off injury, questionable for the season. Matthew Sluka is a guy that played at Holy Cross for Chesney and will do well. No matter which one is the starting quarterback, they're in great shape. George Pettaway was one of the top running backs out of high school, and I think he's going to have a big year at running back. Offensive line, very solid. And last year's squad was depleted, only had 8 starters back. This year they're more experienced, second year for Coach Chesney. And as you mentioned, that September 20th game at Liberty should be big. They are my favorites to win the Sun Belt East. I think their biggest opponents this year in the Sun Belt East are both Georgia Southern and Old Dominion, and they get both those teams at home, which is huge. Take a look at Liberty. I thought Liberty last year had a pretty good team. Now, there were some question marks. I guess my biggest question mark watching the squad last year was that Caden Salter didn't look as good as he did the previous year. I think he was trying to protect himself a little bit, maybe not run as much. He probably figured he was going to transfer this year. So I think Liberty, despite losing Salter, is in good shape at quarterback. I like both Vasco and Berger. They've got guys that have experience. This is a very strong team. You look at what Chadwell's bringing in. I like the fact he gets them to a bowl game yearly, and that was a depleted Liberty squad that got blown out by Buffalo. You look at their 3 regular season losses last year. They lost to Sam Houston by 2. The Jacksonville State, they lost by 10, but there was a late score there. It was actually closer than that. And they lost to Kennesaw State in a massive upset by 3. I think Liberty takes care of business this year. They could be favored in all 12 games. The big one, September 20th against James Madison. So I'm pretty excited about both those teams this year. And I think they're both legitimate contenders to grab a playoff spot if everything breaks their way.
Yeah, we got a chance to watch Vasco up close and personal when he played at Oscar Smith High School in Chesapeake. Phil, let's go to Old Dominion. We are in ODU country here in the 757. A lot of returnees and experience back for Ricky Ronnie and the Monarchs, headed up by sophomore Colton Joseph at quarterback and one of the more accomplished tacklers in the country and linebacker Jason Henderson on the defense. Give us your overview of an ODU team that was involved in 9 games last season, Phil, that were decided by 8 points or less.
Well, let me ask you a quick question on ODU, guys. Either one of you can answer. Jason Henderson, how's he looking in the fall camp so far?
All indications are he's going to be healthy and ready to roll. And I know that's been a big sticking point for them in the past, as you know, Phil, last year. So having him, it's a major difference for them, isn't it?
Oh, man. I love watching this kid play. And last year you thought he was going to come back. I think they made the right move, letting him play the first game and say, yeah, he's not 100%. Let's save him for another year. Having him back is great, not only for Old Dominion, but for college football overall. Now, I think this is clearly Ricky Ronnie's best team that he's put on the field. Twice he's surprised, getting teams that I didn't expect to get to a bowl game, to a bowl. I'm talking about 2021, 2023. I thought they were better than their 5-7 record last year. As you pointed out, Matthew, they've lost a lot of close games last season. I love having Colton Joseph back at running back. You look at this offensive line, and it's probably the closest unit on the team. I think they're going to have a top-notch O-line. Devin Roche at the running back spot looks good. And defensively, with Henderson back, pair him with Mario Thompson, Easterly at the king position. They've got one of the best linebacking cores out there. Now, I mentioned they do have to play James Madison on the road this year. They also have to play Georgia Southern on the road this year. Those are their top 2 contenders in the East. So for them to win the East, they're going to have to pull an upset. But I think this is going to be clearly Ricky Ronnie's best team he's put on the field with the best record. He has not, after 2 bowl losses, he had both seasons, they were 6-7. I think this year they get to 7, potentially 8, maybe even after the bowl game, 9 wins. I think they're going to have a big year this year.
There you go. They can do one of Ed's favorite things. Go bowling. It is 757 Sports Talk, and we're joined by the college football guru, Phil Steele. Check out philsteele.com for so much more. Get his magazine. We'll tell you more about that as we move along here on CoVA Sports TV. Ed?
Phil, obviously, I want to dive into the two biggies from the state, the teams that people really know about or probably maybe huge fan bases. I know JMU has a huge fan base, and, of course, Old Dominion. Attendance at their games is crazy. But Virginia Tech and Virginia. Let's start with Virginia Tech first. I know you have them on your most improved list. I think it's 12. You feel it's Coach's best team since he's been there, and you would expect them to go bowling. And then Virginia, I think you kind of, if I remember looking at the pages, the same thing. You have them as one of your most improved teams and feel that they are also bowl worthy, just depending on a few hiccups that they may have to try to overcome late in the season. But let's go ahead and start with Virginia Tech and then go into Virginia.
Let's start with Virginia Tech. Now, last year, expectations were high for Virginia Tech because they were the number 2 most experienced team in the country coming in. This year, they're not quite as experienced as last year, but last year was disappointing. So I think when you take a look at the roster, start with Kyron Drones at the quarterback spot. And William Pop Watson got some experience last year, especially in the bowl game. But if Drones is back in 100%, I think he's a very dynamic QB. You look at him up front, Thomas Remack is an NFL prospect that they have at the right tackle position. And I'm looking forward to watching Donovan Green this year. Donovan Green, I go back to one of my conversations with Coach Clausen. Clausen had a heck of receivers at Wake Forest. He thought Green would be one of his best. He's been banged up the last couple of years. If Green lives up to that billing, look out. Plus, they've got Aiden Green. They've got solid tight end with Gosnell. And defensively, they bring in a new defensive coordinator in Sam Seifkes, coming over from the NFL. But he's got talent to work with. And keep your eyes on Ben Bell. He's a transfer from Texas State, got a bunch of sacks the last couple of years. I think he could have a big impact on the pass rush. So I think this year, Virginia Tech, unlike last year, where everybody was talking about them because they were so experienced, I think they're flying under the radar this year. Should get off to a good start on the season. And I'm looking for a clearly much improved season from Virginia Tech. And I think they'll, as opposed to last year where they were below expectations, they'll be above expectations this year.
And as we go into UVA, Tony Ellett looking for his first winning season, some hopes for them. And, looking at their schedule for coming up, I think they open up with Coastal, and then looking at that right now, North Carolina State, William and Mary. So probably getting off to a hot start would be important for them. How about the Wahoos?
Yeah, and the underlying theme in my mind when I look at Virginia was the first 2 years, Tony Elliott didn't really have an offensive line. He had like 0 returning starters both years. Finally had a better offensive line last year, and they flirted with a bowl game. After winning just 3 games in each of the first 2, they got better. Now this year, he's got a solid offensive line. That's a good piece to work with right there. They've got 10, 12 guys that can compete, and I think they'll be much improved on the offensive line. They got 2 quarterbacks battling for the job, but I think Chandler Morris wins it. Morris is a guy that did extremely well with North Texas and gives them that veteran QB spot. Cam Ross, Trell Harris, and Edgerine are all solid receivers. Defensively, it's probably the best defense that Coach Elliott's put on the field. And when you look at the schedule, I've got them favored in 6 games. So right there, they should be able to get to a bowl for sure. And I think they're a dangerous team. I think they were a team much like, you finished 5-7 last year, but they had a couple of close losses, games that they, like the Louisville game. I thought they outplayed Louisville in that game. So I think Virginia gets to a bowl game this year, has an improved year. And to me, it's clearly Elliott's best team in his 4 years.
So good news for all the Commonwealth fans, whether you root for Liberty, JMU, Old Dominion, UVA, or Virginia Tech. One more here before the break here, Phil. We'll come back with more with you after our commercial time out. I want to get your take on the ACC as a whole. Clemson you have as a threat to win a national championship. They've won a couple of those under Dabo Swinney. Is the separation between Clemson and the rest of the ACC as grand as any of the power conferences? And how do you think Clemson now stacks up to the Georgias, the Penn States, the Ohio States compared to recent years here? Have they closed that gap?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Matt. I do think that Clemson is the largest favorite I have of the Power Four conferences. And when I look at this squad, they're a homegrown team. And I did a blog on philsteele.com, which talks about homegrown teams this year, ones that are built by the freshmen that you sign. They're now seniors. Go over a conversation I had with Coastal Carolina's head coach, Tim Beck. I'm like, wow, coach, last year was your second year. You had 68 new players. Now things are much more stable for you this year, right? It's year 3. It's like, Phil, I got 69 new players this year. So it's like, wow, teams like that going through all that transition, I think they're going to struggle. Whereas a team like Clemson, which is mostly homegrown, they've added some key transfers like Will Held at defensive end, Jeremiah Alexander at linebacker, and Tristan Smith at wide receiver. But go back to 2 years ago with Clemson. They had a banged-up receiving core. Their top 3 receivers were all out, and Cade Klubnik had just 19 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Well, last year, those injured players are back. They added some pieces, and all of a sudden, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Klubnik's got my number 2 offensive line, number 2 set of receivers. I like their running back core. And defensively, they got too many NFL players to give up 374 yards per game like they did last year. I think their new defense coordinator, Tom Allen, gets that corrected. I have Clemson favored in all 12 games, and I think they're a legitimate national title contender. Their closest teams, the teams that in my mind are battling to face Clemson in the ACC title game, are SMU, Miami of Florida, and Georgia Tech. I think all 3 of those teams have a shot. Georgia Tech's been really good the last 2 years, playing a hell of a tough schedule. This year, their schedule lightens up. That puts them in the contender role along with Miami and SMU. But in my mind, Clemson is the top team in the ACC.
Yeah, I'm with you, Phil. Georgia Tech gave Georgia quite a scare to end last year, regular season-wise, and SMU had a nice comeback against Clemson, just fell short in the ACC championship game. We've got more with the college football guru himself, Phil Steele. After a quick timeout, we'll get his take on surprises, sleepers, the Heisman Trophy race, and, of course, Ed will ask about his Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. It's all coming your way in just a moment right here on 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to CoVA Sports TV.